Ever heard of a bank that owns the pistol used to kill Alexander Hamilton in a duel?
Well, that's just one piece of the puzzle when we talk about J.P. Morgan
It's
Chase.
a financial institution with a history that honestly you couldn't make up.
Yeah,
It's full of larger-than-life characters, and it really does read like a financial thriller.
it really does, yeah.
So let's just jump right into this, shall we?
Let's do it.
Let's start with the man himself, John Pierpont Morgan, the OG,
Right.
J.P. Morgan. This guy was more than a banker. He was like a force of nature, wouldn't you say?
He was born in 1837.
Okay.
His father, Junius, was also a successful banker, so he kind of grew up in it.
He was born into it.
Born into it, yeah. Junius instilled in him this incredible work ethic
Yeah.
and a deep understanding of how important reputation was.
Because it really is everything in banking, isn't it?
It really is.
Especially back then. I
Yeah.
mean, that's how you got deals done. That's how you earn trust, right?
Absolutely.
So these values guided J.P. Morgan throughout his whole career.
They really did. You can see that in everything that he did.
Yeah, and you can see it like leading him to become this pivotal figure,
Right.
like in the creation of giants like U.S. Steel,
Oh, absolutely.
General Electric.
Yeah. I mean, these were massive companies that he played a big role in forming.
And he was also like forward-thinking in a lot of ways.
Oh, in so many ways.
Like the story about his house. I mean, this was when electricity was brand new, and he was the first person in his town to have it installed in his house.
Can you imagine?
What a visionary. Like he was really ahead of his time, wasn't he?
I mean, think about it. It's the late 1800s.
Yeah.
Electricity is this newfangled thing, and he's already wiring his entire house for it.
It's like having like a spaceship in your driveway back then.
Exactly.
That's amazing.
So it really shows you that he had this vision for the future.
Yeah. And not just for like technology, but also for finance. Like he was the one who really understood the potential of consolidating industries.
Right. He saw the chaos and the fragmentation in the market at that time.
And he was like, we need to bring some order to this.
Right.
Exactly. He wanted to streamline things.
Make it more efficient, less risky, all that.
Exactly.
You could almost compare him to like a modern day tech CEO,
You really could.
amassing this huge wealth and influence through all these strategic mergers and acquisitions.
And in a way, that's not far off.
Yeah.
But what really sets JP Morgan apart is his role in stabilizing the whole financial system, like especially during these huge crises.
Right.
The Panic of 1907 is the perfect example of this.
Okay, so let's set the scene. It's 1907. The U.S. is in a total financial panic, and there's no Federal Reserve to step in.
Right. No safety net whatsoever.
So what happened?
Enter J.P. Morgan. Like literally, this is his moment.
He swoops in to save the day. It's incredible.
It is. And the situation was dire. I mean, the Knickerbocker Trust Company had collapsed. That triggered this whole chain reaction.
Oh, yeah.
Bank runs everywhere,
People freaking out.
People are panicking.
Stock market's crashing.
It's total chaos.
Sounds like the end of the world, financially speaking.
Yeah, pretty much.
So the U.S. Treasury is desperately trying to fix things. But they're not having much luck, are they?
Not really. It's J.P. Morgan who ultimately takes charge.
Of course he does. He's J.P. Morgan. So he calls a meeting of all the top bankers in his private library. I mean, that's like a scene straight out of a movie, isn't it?
It really is. And basically, he tells them, look, you're going to pool your money together. You're going to save this country from financial ruin.
Wow.
He knew that if they didn't act fast, the whole system would collapse.
So it was kind of like every man for himself, right?
Yeah, but also they had to work together.
Yeah.
Because they were all interconnected.
Right. If one bank failed, everyone failed.
Yeah.
It's that classic too big to fail problem.
Exactly. And Morgan understood that. He knew that swift action was needed.
And he was the only one who could make it happen.
Pretty much.
And there's that famous story about him demanding $20 million
Oh, yeah.
to be raised within 20 minutes to keep the New York Stock Exchange from closing.
Yeah,
I mean, can you imagine the pressure in that room?
I can't even fathom it.
That's wild.
It was a total gamble, but Morgan was a master negotiator.
And he had this reputation for being able to fix things.
Exactly.
So he managed to secure the funds. He prevented a total meltdown. What a boss.
It's an incredible story. He became a national hero.
The man who single-handedly saved Wall Street.
Right.
But it also kind of exposed a huge flaw in the American financial system, didn't it?
It absolutely did. I mean, the fact that one person had that much power.
That the entire economy rested on his shoulders.
Exactly.
That's pretty scary when you think about it.
Yeah.
So this whole event sparked a major debate about the need for better regulation,
Oh, absolutely.
like a more centralized system that could handle these kinds of crises.
Yeah, a system that didn't rely on just one person to fix everything.
And that, of course, leads to the creation of the Federal Reserve in 1913.
Right.
It's kind of amazing how this single event, orchestrated by J.P. Morgan, basically laid the groundwork for the modern central banking system that we have today.
It's a pretty incredible legacy. He may have been a product of the Gilded Age,
Yeah.
but his actions helped to usher in a whole new era of financial regulation and oversight.
So the story of J.P. Morgan Chase doesn't end there.
Oh, no, it doesn't.
It actually gets even more interesting as we move into the 20th century.
Right.
And we witness the rise of this banking behemoth through like a whole series of mergers and acquisitions.
Absolutely. Lots of twists and turns.
And that pistol we talked about earlier,
Oh, yes.
the infamous Aaron Burr pistol.
That plays a big role in this story, too.
Oh, right. So let's talk about how that ties into the J.P. Morgan Chase legacy.
All right, so believe it or not, the pistol, this piece of American history,
Yeah.
it actually connects to the Chase side of J.P. Morgan Chase.
Oh, cow.
So Aaron Burr, the guy who shot Alexander Hamilton, he founded this company back in 1799 called the Manhattan Company.
Oh.
And that company eventually became Chase Manhattan Bank.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
So the bank that now owns the Aaron Burr pistol is actually like a descendant of a bank that Aaron Burr himself founded.
It is.
That's crazy.
It's like this wild historical irony.
It really highlights how long and winding the road has been for J.P. Morgan Chase.
It really does. I mean, it's this incredible story that's woven right into the fabric of American history and finance.
And things get even more complex when we hit the era of deregulation in the 1990s.
Oh, yeah.
That's when we see this wave of bank mergers and
It
acquisitions.
was like a feeding frenzy.
And it ultimately leads to the creation of the J.P. Morgan Chase we know today.
Exactly. The stage was set for this whole new chapter.
A chapter that really tested their resilience
It did.
and shaped their future in some pretty profound ways.
Absolutely.
And up next, we're going to dive into the 2008 financial crisis
Oh, yeah.
and explore how J.P. Morgan Chase, under Jamie Dimon,
Another big personality.
navigated those really turbulent waters
They did.
and emerged as arguably the most powerful financial institution in the world.
Absolutely.
Stay tuned for more.
Can't wait. You know, as we go through this, it's really fascinating
Yeah.
to see how some of these patterns repeat themselves.
Yeah, definitely like history rhyming.
Yeah.
When you compare the panic of 1907 to 2008.
Both of them showed just how fragile the financial system really is
Yeah.
and how important government intervention can be.
Yeah.
But it's interesting, in 1907, you have J.P. Morgan, the man, stepping in. But in 2008, it was J.P. Morgan Chase, the institution.
Yeah, it's like they became the person.
Exactly.
And that time they had the Fed working alongside them,
Right.
which is kind of a result of that earlier crisis.
Cracks.
So the Fed with more tools now,
Right.
they played a much bigger role in stabilizing things.
Yeah, they did. But
Yeah.
J.P. Morgan Chase still proved incredibly important.
Oh, yeah, because they have those deep pockets.
Right.
And that reputation for being pretty careful.
And then there's the acquisition of Bear Stearns and Washington Mutual.
Right, which really solidified them as like the government's go-to in these situations.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But those acquisitions were super controversial.
Oh, absolutely.
People were accusing J.P. Morgan Chase of just profiting off of other people's problems.
I mean, it's hard to argue with that, right?
Yeah, they were buying up valuable stuff
Right.
at fire sale prices.
But you also have to remember that both of those institutions
Yeah.
were about to collapse.
Oh, yeah.
And if they had gone under,
Yeah, it would have been bad.
it would have been devastating for the entire system.
So in a way, J.P. Morgan Chase was acting like a backstop, right?
Mhm.
Preventing
Yeah.
a total collapse.
Exactly.
And this brings us to the acquisition of First Republic Bank,
Yeah.
which feels a lot like those earlier deals.
Another big bank in trouble.
Yeah.
And J.P. Morgan Chase swoops in with the government's blessing.
Yeah. It sparked so much debate
It really did.
about whether they're just getting too big.
Right. The too big to fail problem.
Yeah, exactly. And politicians like Elizabeth Warren
Oh, yeah.
have been very vocal about this.
She's concerned about so much power in the hands of so few institutions.
Yeah, that it could hurt competition.
Right.
And if one of these mega banks were to fail, the taxpayers would be left holding the bag,
But people who support the deal.
including Jamie Dimon,
Yeah, including banks.
argued that it actually made the system stronger.
They point to J.P. Morgan Chase's risk management
Yeah,
and their ability to just absorb a failing bank without bringing the whole market down.
right. It's a tough one.
Yeah,
Valid points on both sides.
absolutely.
On the one hand, too much power can be a bad thing.
Right.
But on the other hand, you need some stability and expertise to navigate these kinds of situations.
And regulators are constantly trying to find that balance.
But no matter what side you're on, one thing is clear. JPMorgan Chase is a huge force in the financial world.
They are.
Stock performance is great.
Yeah.
Record revenue.
Under Dimon.
Yeah. And they seem to be able to adapt no matter what. They're like a financial supermarket now.
Yeah, they really are. They do everything.
From traditional banking to really complicated investments.
And they've really nailed it with millennials, haven't they?
They have.
That generation is super comfortable online.
Oh, yeah. And with mobile banking.
Their Sapphire Reserve card is a great example of that.
That's a good one.
It's amazing how they've gone from being a pretty traditional bank
Yeah.
to a major player in fintech.
They're always innovating.
It seems like it.
Yeah.
Using technology in new ways.
We've covered a lot of ground here.
Yeah, we have.
From J.P. Morgan himself saving the economy to Jamie Dimon steering the ship in 2008.
Yeah, and beyond.
Historical roots.
Mergers, dominance, and that ongoing debate.
About their size.
Yeah.
And their influence.
But it's more than just a bank, wouldn't you say?
It really is.
It's like their story is woven into the evolution of the entire American financial system.
Reflecting the good, the bad,
Yeah.
the search for balance.
And when we get into Jamie Dimon, yeah.
And look at what might be next for them.
Yeah.
We're going to see those complexities
Those contradictions.
that make J.P. Morgan Chase so fascinating.
Yeah.
It really is amazing how the legacy of, J.P. Morgan, the man,
Yeah.
still looms so large over the company.
I know it's been over a century, but it's like his vision is still shaping things.
And speaking of legacies,
Yeah.
we can't wrap this up without talking about the guy in charge for the last 20 years.
Jamie Dimon.
Yeah. He's practically synonymous with the bank now, wouldn't you say?
He really is.
And he's definitely not your typical CEO.
Oh, no.
He's not afraid to speak his mind,
Not at all.
even in the world of finance, which can be pretty buttoned up.
He's very outspoken. Yeah.
Yeah, opinionated.
For sure.
Happy to ruffle some feathers.
He's a straight talker.
Yeah.
No sugarcoating.
And it's interesting how his public image has changed.
Yeah.
Like back in the early 2000s, nobody really knew who he was.
And now he's everywhere.
Yeah, on the news all the time.
Everyone wants to hear what he thinks about the economy.
It's because he's been at J.P. Morgan Chase for so long.
Right.
And because he's willing to talk about all kinds of things.
Not just banking stuff.
Yeah, but all that influence.
Yeah.
It does make you wonder, right?
About what?
Is it a good thing for one person to have so much power
It's a valid question.
in the financial system,
Yeah. I mean, that's
Okay.
part of why we have the Fed.
right? Because of J.P. Morgan back in 1907,
And yet here we are.
over 100 years later.
And it feels kind of similar.
Yeah, with Jamie Dimon as the spokesperson for the whole industry.
Some people say his influence is way too big.
Yeah, that he has too much sway over politicians and regulators.
They point to his connections,
The trips to Congress.
his ability to shape the conversation.
But the people on his side say it's because he's so good at what he does
Right. That he's earned that influence.
by guiding the bank through all these crises.
Yeah, by really understanding how the system works.
And it's true that under his leadership, J.P. Morgan Chase has been super successful.
Consistently beating the competition.
Yeah, strong balance sheet,
Record profit.
adopting new technology.
But even the people who like him
Yeah.
admit that there are some risks.
Having one person with so much power.
Yeah. What if he makes a mistake?
Right.
Are there enough safeguards?
To make sure he's acting in everyone's best interest.
Not just the banks.
These are really important questions,
They are.
especially with a company as big as J.P. Morgan Chase.
They have a global impact.
Their decisions matter.
And we've seen throughout their history that they're not afraid to take risks.
Yeah, like with those acquisitions,
Right. Buying up those failing banks.
going into new markets.
Pushing for policies that help them make money.
So what's next for them?
Yeah.
Will they keep growing, or will regulators try to limit their power?
It's hard to say, but they're definitely going to be interesting to watch.
J.P. Morgan Chase is a fascinating example.
Of how global finance works.
It's a story about ambition
Risk management.
and the desire for financial success. As we wrap up this deep dive,
Yeah.
I want you to think about the questions we've raised today.
How do we balance the need for stability
Yeah.
with the need for competition?
How much should the government be
It's
involved?
regulating these institutions.
And most importantly, how do we make sure the financial system works for everybody?
Not just the people at the top.
It's complicated,
Yeah.
But these are conversations we need to have.
Absolutely.
We need transparency and accountability
To build a better system.
for everyone.
That's more sustainable.
Thanks for joining us on this journey
Yeah, thanks for listening.
through the world of J.P. Morgan Chase.